Insane Productivity Mastermind Group. Dave Savage here. What's up? I'm in a very cool location today. I'm actually in South Bend, Indiana, and I'm hanging out with the #1 loan officer in the market. Everybody say hi to Jonathan.
Hey, Jonathan.
Good.
So, hey, Dave Gallegos, thanks for hooking me up with Jonathan. We just had an hour of masterminding, and I learned a lot of things.
Hey, big guy.
What's up, Dave?
How you doing, man? Oh, he can't hear me, can he?
So guys, I'm here for a lacrosse tournament with my son, but whenever I travel, I always try to, keep the mortgage coach mission going. And so I asked my buddy Dave Gallegos if they had anybody in this market that I could come by, meet, and serve. I had no idea that I was going to meet a guy who's killing it. How much business are you doing, Jonathan?
About 37 million. Average loan amount about 150, and about 250 units last year.
So 250 units, serving a lot of families, and you've been through Insane Productivity?
Been through Insane Productivity just earlier this year. Finished that up. Actually, Hallmark went through it as a company, so yeah, just finished that up not too long ago.
Right on.
Yeah.
So by the way, anybody from Hallmark that's on it, the Hallmark entire company went through Insane Productivity. So if anybody from Hallmark is on here, say what's up to Jonathan. By the way, pull over this little book you got here. So by the way, Todd, I had no idea. I just came in, and this guy is like our people. He shows this to me. And,
nice.
And by the way, when he came into the meeting, it wasn't like he was coming in to say, "Oh, I bought the book." He was just bringing it in because this is how he rolls.
Nice.
He came in to sit down with me, and he just pulls this out, and he's like, "Okay, let's start masterminding." So I thought you'd like that, Todd.
I love it. That's how you have to be. It's got to become part of your body, right? It's like something that just goes with you wherever you go, and that's how you adopt that philosophy.
No doubt.
Right on. So for anybody that's new to this call, it's different than other mortgage coach calls. One, it's available to all mortgage professionals. So if you're on this call and you're a mortgage coach, great. But if you're not, you're welcome. Remember to invite others. Also, it's all about personal productivity. It's all about how can we get more done in less time? How can we be living more from an on-priority perspective, both professionally and business-wise? Of course, at Mortgage Coach, we believe that every family should get a total cost analysis. So we're always integrating how does the total cost analysis, the annual review, how does that make the most productive loan officer possible? So, and then it's a mastermind, which means anybody and everybody is a leader on this call. And Jonathan is our guest leader today.
Thank you.
So we have a couple other leaders. We've got Jen Duplessis, we've got Michelle Tell, we've got Dave Gallegos. All have been through Insane Productivity. And then we have Mr. Todd Bookspan. So Todd, I know we're going to make the main topic multitasking or not multitasking. Why don't you put some color around that, and so everybody can be thinking about how we're going to talk about that. And then I have one topic I want to hit with Jonathan, and then we'll get into the big topic. But why don't you set up multitasking first?
Sure. It was interesting. I was actually talking to a couple of my clients about multitasking yesterday as I could hear them clicking away and sending emails while we were on coaching calls. And I think this community is guilty of it too, as far as the fact that I got win by noon orders early on in our conversation while people were still listening to what I was saying without actually being fully engaged. They were doing other things. And so my favorite quote from Insane Productivity, for those of you who haven't been through it, is Darren Hardy compares your IQ drops 10 points when you are multitasking. When you're stoned, apparently your IQ only drops 5 points. So his whole point is that when you're multitasking, you're even dumber than when you're stoned. And so I use that as kind of the setup, and then there's all sorts of other statistics and things that he talks about. But, in the end, I think it's a big thing that plagues loan officers and keeps them from reaching their potential is because they're just not really dialed in, laser focused, present on what they're doing. And so I think multitasking is one of those things that if we can just get a little bit better on it each day, then we're just going to crush it.
I love that. I love it, Todd. So hey, Marcy, I want to ask you if you could put a poll question up that I'm going to ask in a few minutes, but it's just like, something to this effect, Marcy. Where are you from a multitasking perspective? And then the options are dysfunctional, under control, very focused. I'd just like to get I'm on it, I'm focused, I'm kind of getting there, and I'm, multitasking is really hurting my productivity. I want to get a feel for where the call is at, and we're going to get into that. So this is, I think, a good setup for this topic. I'm going to ask Jonathan a couple questions, and then we'll talk about it. So Jonathan, you mentioned you've been through insane productivity.
Right. Yep.
What was and you've done a lot of training. You're part of the core. He's a student of the core, or you're being coached by the core.
Right. Yep.
But when you think of the insane productivity program you went through, what was the most valuable takeaway that you got?
I think anytime you're dealing with productivity, the biggest thing is, like what Todd said, is that focus. So the 90-minute jam sessions, I think really being able to at least do between 60 90-minute jam sessions on a daily basis is the biggest thing that I took away from it, which, although it seems like it's not rocket science, is very, very difficult for somebody that's just I'm wired real energetic, and I don't want to miss anything. I feel like I need to sometimes micromanage some of my files and my deals, and I need to be willing to turn things off. And so the 90-minute jam session is still the thing that I'm working on. I'm not all there yet. And so when you talk about multitasking, I think we all still have those dings on our phone. We still have the things on our email coming up. We have people interrupting us coming into the office. So finding a way to create that bubble so that you're not being distracted too much. That's my big takeaway, because you got to be productive. And
remember, guys, we're going to talk about multitasking, so I think it's a good setup. So you're doing, on average, 25 loans a month as a team. Mm-hmm. How many leads are coming in to your systems?
About 5 a day, and so we're looking at 100 leads per month.
Okay, so 100 credit reports, 100 high trust conversations, 25 loans, and then how often are you doing these jam sessions?
Well, that's the thing. The jam sessions, I've got my time blocked out, but I would tell you that I have not been real laser focused in those 90 minutes. And so I can say that I've got my time blocked out to make my realtor calls, to do certain things that I'm supposed to be doing with prospecting. But I still struggle with distractions throughout that time. And so I'm trying to block my time at least one time a day and getting at least a good 60 minutes in for my jam session. But like I said, if I'm honest with you, it's tough.
So like if I looked at your calendar right now, you've got one hour session blocked off.
I've got my whole calendar blocked out with all the different tasks I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Okay. And then you're saying you're having a challenge staying focused within that hour. You're finding yourself doing other things. So by the way, everybody, who else has that challenge? I'm not even going to ask for a raise of the hands, because I really think everybody would say that they're having a problem there. I'm going to go ahead and push a question real quick, because I want to know where you guys at from a jam session standpoint. Also, a reminder to everybody that's new to this call, we did a call that was solely focused on jam sessions, so you can look that up in the recording. It has jam session in the description. Jonathan, by the way, how would you answer this question right here? How many jam sessions did you do? 0, 1 through 3, 3 through 5, more than 5?
1 through 3.
1 through 3.
Okay. And that's assuming that there was still some distractions within those 1 to 3.
Got it. All right. So here are the results, everybody. We've got 20% 0. We've got 15% that don't know what it is. By the way, for you 15%, go back and watch the call that we talked about, and also go through Darren Hardy's Insane Productivity Program. It's great. And then I'm pretty stoked. I mean, 55% have done at least, I guess 1 through 3. And 10% are just on it. I mean, you were, 3 to 5, and 5% are more than 5. So that's great to see. Todd, any comments or commentary on that?
I think it's awesome to see such a huge percentage of you actually doing jam sessions. I can tell you that when I was a loan officer, when I was focused working on my business, I did that in less frequent, bigger chunks. So those of you who are knocking it out, great job. Those of you who haven't done it, just write it down, right? Make a commitment when you're going to do it. I always say on this call, the best time to do it is right when you get off this call and just sit there and take the ideas that you learned and figure out how you can implement the top one or two into your day, your week, and your life going forward.
Nice. All right, so we've got over 50, top mortgage professionals on today's call. We're 10 minutes into this. I do want to let's start talking about, multitasking. I do want to remind folks, if you're on this call, you can raise your hand or you can post a question. So you've got some of the most successful loan officers in the country as leaders and mentors on this call. You've got Jonathan from South Bend, who's closing north of 25 loans a month. So feel free to table your questions. And Todd, let's get into it. I'm going to let you lead. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. If Jonathan and I jump in and talk, I will share my screen. But why don't you kick us off with a bit of masterminding. I know you kind of set it up at the beginning, but what questions do you have, or how do you want to kind of set this conversation up?
It's funny. I want to set this conversation up by saying something that Jonathan said, which I thought was truly brilliant. He said it's not rocket science, but it's very, very difficult. And then he said you need to be willing to turn things off. And it's a theme that I have for 2017 that I'm talking to my team and my clients about. It's just having courage, right? I think that's the biggest challenge. It's so hard to break these habits, and I would just say don't beat yourself up over it. My wife and I did something we rarely do this morning, which is carpool into the office together, and we both got out of the habit of having our phones away when we're in the car, right? Not only is it dangerous to have your phone out, be looking at it at stoplights, but it's something we all do. I mean, maybe like 98% of us. Maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe there's more of you who are great at that, but it's just fun, right? It's fun to actually be present in the car and have a conversation and not be getting distracted because you're trying to multitask. And so I think really what it boils down to, from a couple of perspectives, right? I mean, just from the human element of it, the whole idea of being present with people, right? Whether it's a team member, whether it's a coworker, and most importantly with your family, is just that idea of being present and not being distracted by something else, whether it's your email or social media or your phone ringing from, realtor calling during dinner. I mean, those are all things that it's just important to be present. My children remember the times where I was present at home, and they also remind me of the times where I was answering my phone when we were at home and having dinner, and those aren't proud moments. And then I also think you have to look at it from the other side of it, truly from the business side of it. And I still see the biggest challenge that loan officers have is that they know what's really important today. What your number one priorities are for the day, but we get so distracted so early in the morning, reacting to email, reacting to text messages, reacting to phone calls. And a lot of it, in fact, most of it, if not all of it's really important, right? It's people asking questions, it's follow up on files, but most of it's not truly urgent, and I think you always have to look at your life and decide what urgent is. In my world, something that was urgent was if there was ever the proverbial client that was, sitting in front of their house with a moving truck and something wasn't funding on their loan, that was a fire that was urgent. And you know what, that would be something I would expect to be interrupted on. But the beauty for me was the fact that I did my jam sessions every morning, and most clients weren't in signing in the morning. And then most of those urgencies, if there was ever a fire like that, wouldn't happen till the early to mid afternoon. And so that ironically didn't really happen to me. And so, in the end, I had to have the courage from a multitasking perspective to be willing to block it all out. I had to call myself out on it. I am so easily distracted. Even standing here on this call, I'm so easily distracted because Dave is like, hey, I got Jonathan here. He's awesome. I'm thinking, all right, well, he didn't say what Jonathan's last name was, right? So I was so tempted to multitask and pull up Facebook to look up who he is so that I see Dave's post right there so I would know. But then what happens is Dave would ask me a question and I'd be like, oh, what was that? And then I would only half-heartedly answer it. And so, the challenge is to how do you then set up your life around multitasking? And I can tell you, Dave Gallegos, who's on this phone, was one of the people who I don't know that he knows it or not, but when we talked about this early on in our insane productivity calls, really talked about how he turned off all of the bells and whistles and gadgets. And I always thought I would have myself on lockdown mode oftentimes. But now I don't have any device that has, right here, I'm sitting here, I can see on my laptop, I can see my email accounts that are open. and I can't tell how many emails are in there. And my gut tells me is I probably have emails in all those accounts, but there's no little red circle with a number in it. None of my phones buzz or do anything when that happens, or when someone likes something on Facebook, you know, no notification when someone posts something to Instagram. And so those are things I see that, you know, that drive people sort of off the cliff of distraction and multitasking. So, you know, I kind of will throw it out there to certainly the crew here, right? One of the rules of this mastermind is we love it when you guys raise your hand and talk or ask us a question. But since I already mentioned Dave Gallegos, I would love maybe, with no one else asking us questions, maybe Dave, I'd love you to sort of talk about the things that you turned off in order to make sure that you're not distracted by multitasking.
Right on. Well, thanks. This stuff had started to get to me a long time ago when you would see, because I know I have ADD, it's diagnosed and everything else. So you have to be very intentional I have to be very intentional about how to keep myself from being distracted. And it was those little things, the pop-up that you see on people's computers. And when I'm at someone else's computer and I see that little pop-up window that shows up because they got an email, even though their email's not open, I'm like, you can turn that off, right? Like, you didn't know you could turn that off. So I'm fanatical about it because I just don't want, because I'll look. I mean, I know I'll look. And Dave's had Mike White, the business coach, on here before, and I paid Mike to sit at my desk once several years ago. I paid him to sit at my desk and watch me work for a couple of days, and it was brutal. I wanted to punch him in the mouth, Dave. I mean, I really did, because he was catching me being distracted and not finishing a task and working on 2 or 3 tasks at the time, and it was just like, it was painful. But one of the things, I think I've mentioned this before, maybe I haven't, but I have a our telephone, our desk phones have lights that light up when there's a voicemail. I cover mine up because if I see that it's lit, I feel like, oh, I got to go check and see who called. Like, it's that, I've got the Insane Productivity book out on my desk because this is such a good topic. And, he talks about the need to feel needed and the need to feel wanted and the validation and all those. There's a big psychology around this that makes it so difficult. So you just have to be very intentional. And I've just gone out of my way. I don't get Facebook notifications. I don't get LinkedIn notifications. I don't and when I see people that have that, it's I love what you said, Todd. When my wife and I go to a movie or we go out to eat or something like that, we leave our phones in the car. And we're getting to where it's like, I don't even want the phone around. Like, I'm just weary with the dang thing now. So, yeah, you got to be very focused on being intentional about eliminating the distraction.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's, oh, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so 2 things. One, I wanted people to know that in chat, I took a few notes from what Dave said. And I this is a new one, man. I had not had this on my list, but he hired, did everybody catch that? He hired someone to watch him work for 2 days. I mean, that's the baller move. And I don't even know I have the courage to do that. So that was
pretty humbling. It's a pretty humbling experience, I can tell you that.
I can only imagine how humbling it would be to hire someone to watch me for 2 days. I think they would give their money back and say, I'm out of here. But so first of all, that's super impressive. I wrote down, in chat, turn off all your alerts, cover up anything and everything that can distract you, leave your phone in the car and hide it. And then also want to just throw out to the community, if you get a takeaway, feel free to add that to chats, just so we're all hearing what each other are hearing. Do want to remind people to ask questions. Now, Todd, I want to give Jonathan actually has to jump to a realtor meeting that he already had scheduled. I already kind of hijacked him. I parachuted into his office this morning, and I want to make sure he could jump just because he has another commitment. But Jonathan, if you could just share some of your strategies, since going through Insane Productivity to reduce multitasking and be more present. Anything you want to share?
Yeah, when it comes to business, say I've got a team, and so we have team meetings every morning. So our team meetings are at 8:30 in the morning, and so I'm always letting them know what when I shouldn't be distracted. So I try to let them know that. Now, it doesn't always work, but communicating with your team and letting them know your expectations on the day. The other thing that I do is I make sure with my cell phone, I have my voicemail on there that says to contact the office if they have any questions or immediate response. And some people do have my cell phone, and some people don't get their cell phone number out. Mine's still out there, but I at least let them know that they will not get a response from me if they're leaving a voicemail on that cell phone right away, so they should contact their office line. So it kind of keeps me mentally knowing that I don't have to get that voicemail that's on my phone, because I know that they've been given instructions to be able to call a different number.
Do you update that daily? Is that what you
I
said?
don't update it
Okay.
yet, but I've got it on my. I've got that callback number on my phone, so they know not to expect a
But you've got to update your voicemail to set expectations with your clients so that you have space and boundaries.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
I think setting the expectation for the team is a big thing. I've also turned off notifications when it came to Facebook and things like that on my phone, and make sure that I don't have that, because that's a killer. If you have any of those notifications coming up, it's easy to be easily distracted on those. I would say that's the big thing. The team, actually, I let them know. I remind them of what my task or what my job title is, and what my main top tasks are on the team. So I always have to remind everybody, what am I supposed to be doing? And mine is to do certain activities that's going to will be more money producing activities for the team. And so with that, when I remind them of that, and I think everyone's a little bit more on board. So they try to protect my time, and I think that makes a big difference for me.
Hang on. So I think that was big. Just to remind, you may have set expectations with your team about your top priorities and responsibilities, but that concept of you're never done. You're always reminding them, you're always reminding yourself, and to get, the ultimate when you get your team to protect you. So Jonathan, I know you got to jump. Todd, any coaching takeaways or any questions for Jonathan before we let him get to his next realtor meeting?
No, I just want to say thanks. Can't wait to learn about how you're using your Win by Noon planner, and let me know if you have any questions on that. And just love that you let Dave parachute in and that you were willing to share with this community. That's so valuable to the rest of us.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have a question. Can I
Great.
ask
Yeah.
Real quick question for you, Todd. I just wanted to confirm. So when you're doing your Win by Noon and trying to get most of your jam sessions out of the way in the morning, what do you find that doing an early morning jam session is good with regard to prospecting? Because it's kind of hard to prospect in the morning. Do you find that to be an issue for you?
I used to find it to be an issue, and I got recent motivation on that from the Chris Smith interview that Dave did on Mortgage Coach a while back, where Chris Smith, those of you who don't know who he is, he's wrote the book called The Conversion Code. So I kind of view him right now as the guru on online conversion. And he says there's 2 windows where you're going to reach people between 8 and 10 a.m. and between 4 and 6 p.m. And so, I just kind of have to live with that. But ultimately what I found is that even though people weren't always available in the morning, they might have been an afternoon crew. Then they were calling me back in the afternoon, and it was falling in my reactive time, afternoon. And so that was sort of my approach to it. And then when I was doing, true jam session on time working on my business, I just need to have brain power for that. And I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I just run out of energy to think like that later in the day. So the earlier in the day I did that, I found the more effective it was. And then also the less likely I was to have realtors. They weren't awake at that time. Family might have been asleep, or even if I did it when I got to the office, just less stuff is going on that could potentially distract you.
Got it. That's good. I appreciate that.
And real quick, when do you have specific times in which you're doing your prospecting, and what are they?
Yeah, most of mine are earlier in the morning, but I try to do it in that range of, I always felt like I needed to do it between like 10 and noon was kind of the time frame. Mm-hmm. But I really love the idea of early, because I like to knock things out early morning when it comes to just any tasks that I can get off my plate. And so I really like the idea of between that 8 and 10. If I were making prospecting calls and I can get a hold of people, that'd be great. I just wanted to get your take on it, because I feel like sometimes even calling past clients and whatnot, it's easier sometimes to reach in the afternoon. And maybe that's just a mental block for me, where I've had trouble calling in the mornings for them.
Got it. Hey, when does Josh do his his morning prospecting blocking time?
They're blocked from, I believe it's 9 to 11 every single day, Monday through Friday. All 10 or 12 of them are all locked and loaded in the office, in the chair, doing all their outbound calling.
So by the way, it's a pretty much a best practice that when I talk to folks that, the top producers have time block prospecting time that is just so religious. I mean, they do it. And so anybody on this call that does have a prospecting time block time, let us know what time frames. I do it from blank to blank. If you do it 5 days a week, let us know that. I do think that's we're talking about multitasking, or not multitasking, but I think it would be great to share that from a mastermind perspective. What are your time block hours? On my way out the door, I'll tell you what feedback people gave.
Okay, sounds good.
All right,
appreciate it. Thanks.
Take care. So Todd, I'm going to turn it back over to you. However, before I do that, I do want to push. Marcy got a poll question up for me that I want to just see where everybody's at. Do you feel like that you multitask at a level that would be considered dysfunctional? And again, I don't want to overplay that word. It's just like you're not meeting your own expectation. You feel like you could be so much more productive. Do you feel like you have it under control? Or do you just feel like I am totally focused, man? I'm in Zen mode and I'm right where I need to be. I'm totally focused. So right now, 40% of you have voted. I would really like to have 70% vote. Remember, this is a mastermind call. Participation is, pushed on. I'm not going to say required because I can't kick you off the call if you don't participate. But I would love to see 70% of you vote. So 60% have voted. Give me a few more votes and I'll share the results. So guys, here are the results of the survey. 74%, by own definition, by own standards, feel as though they're dysfunctional. 20% think they have it under control. And nobody, zero, actually feel like they are, totally focused and have it under control. Wow. Any questions or comments, Todd, before I hand it off to other coaches?
I'm not surprised that there's 0% totally focused, because I think that's such a hard thing. I think I might go, a couple days where I can say, or maybe a couple hours, probably more transparently, where I'm totally focused, where I didn't try to multitask one time. And so I love the transparency of this group. So, thank you guys who are there. I also love it that I'm seeing some people type some notes and some questions. I love it that Gabe just turned off his email notifications based on what Dave Gallegos just said. Although, of course, there's the other part of me that wants to give him a hard time for multitasking while we're all on this mastermind together. But I love the movement. I love the movement that direction, and so I love the fact that people are raising their hand, because it's one of those things where there's often times where you don't want to publicly call yourself out, but this is a community where we give forgiveness easily, and ultimately love the fact when people sort of share what their challenges and their problems are. I think that's how the rest of us learn. And I'm definitely seeing a lot of other comments here. I'm not sure if one of the mentors who's unmuted is typing something, but I'm getting some comments on people saying that that's distracting. I heard a little beep on someone's phone too, or something. So let's get that notification turned off as well. It also makes me think when Jonathan was talking about the morning prospecting. And again, I don't know about the rest of all of you, but I can tell you that the teams that I worked with as an originator, that my teams still work with, the biggest real estate teams, all have that morning philosophy where every morning they're lead generating. So 2 big teams that my team works with that are online lead generating teams, 9 to noon every day. It's a requirement. Ironically, they both live at extreme ends of town. There's people who drive over an hour each day to be part of their team, and they're required to be in the office doing that prospecting. And it's just great that they have that discipline and they have that courage to say to their referral partner, to their client who says, hey, can you show me houses tomorrow at 10? They have the courage to say, you know what, I've already got a commitment at that time. Can I show you after afternoon? And then it's really rare that a client says, no, I'm only available in the mornings. And I would tell you that the leaders of those teams actually would tell their agents on their team that it's okay to lose a deal. Our discipline of prospecting is more important. So just one other thing to think about, and certainly a conversation to have with your realtors, because we see it a lot. in the marketplace. And probably the last thing I'd love to share before I let Jen or Michelle or Dave jump back in is the story I've shared with this group before, but there's so many new people. Since this mastermind is inspired by Darren Hardy's Insane Productivity, I had the great opportunity to spend time with Darren. We brought him in to speak in our market a couple times, and I also attended his high performance forum where I got to spend one-on-one time with he and his wife. And ultimately, the thing that jumped out to me the first time that I met with him, I had picked him up from the airport, drove him to his hotel. I ended up spending a lot of time with him, either one-on-one or with my wife and business partner. And he was not on his cell phone, not one single time. He literally walked off the plane. Cell phone was in his bag. Didn't ever pull it out one time. The only time he pulled it out was when he was leaving to meet with us to go meet with someone from Success Magazine, because he's still the publisher at the time, someone who had won some award. And he asked permission. Hey, you know what? I can't remember. I want to make sure I remember this lady's name properly. Would it be okay if I pull out my phone? So here's this guy, and granted, he's got assistants and other systems in place, but he's so practices what he preaches and lives by that I try to remind myself that on days like today where I'm talking to my wife about the fact that she and I are in the car together and both struggling to leave our phones down. Who else has a thought on that? Michelle, Jen, either of you?
Michelle, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I do. I absolutely don't bring my phone in when I go to appointments now. It helped me tremendously, and I just keep a notebook with me if I need to take some notes. It's distracting, and I don't mean to be rude, but it's disrespectful when you pick up your phone and you're in a meeting one-on-one with somebody else, because it means that they're not important. Or at least that's how I feel when somebody does it to me. The other thing on the multitasking, anybody who's been through the same productivity, Darren did something, and it was like, for me, I'm a numbers girl, so it really helped when he told me to, take the numbers 1 through 10, count them out, and then take the alphabet A through F or G or whatever. And then multitasking is taking that, now take 1A, 2B, 3C, and you've actually created a third task for you to do. So that's what multitasking is. And it helped me understand the concept of multitasking a little bit better. I don't know if that helps anybody.
Well, I got to imagine it does. I think it just, again, it's so natural, right? We've all come there. We've all just gone there. I love how you say it's disrespectful. And, I'm one of those people where, I got a buddy who's my insurance agent, and, I connected with him earlier this week, and, his phone's ringing, and he said, I said, oh, grab it if you need to. And he said, no, I'm here with you. So I was respectful of that, but then I love your idea, Michelle, of, well, gosh, what if he would have left the phone in the car? And, I don't know, I know Dave wears one of these Apple watches. I keep thinking I should buy one, and I keep thinking it'll be a big distraction, but my Fitbit now tells me who's calling me or if someone's texting me, and now I have this habit where I'll look at that. So that just makes me publicly commit that I'm going to disconnect that feature from my Fitbit after this call, because I think that's where people always look at it. If I look at it, they see that I'm doing that, and that is disrespectful. So I love that you called it. Love that you called it out. What about you, Jen?
Yeah, we kind of beat up the multitasking several weeks ago. What I wanted to just, pure transparency here. Right after I did my first round of Insane Productivity, I wanted to reach out to, and it was a combination of me doing that and identifying a brand. I was sort of renewing myself in all aspects. And so I put together an email that I was really nervous about, because I was sending it out to my, sort of close people, like my A+s, my A's, maybe and some family members and things like that, just people that I respected, that knew me. And I sent out an email saying, hey, I'm looking at doing some tweaking to my branding, and this is all because of Insane Productivity. I'm looking at some tweaking to my branding, but at the same time, I'd like for you to give me 2 or 3 words, not several words. I don't want a sentence or anything, just 2 or 3 words that describe me. And the whole purpose of that was just so that I could be, how does the world see me, rather than what I think I should be promoting for myself. Like, ooh, I think I heard someone else have a really good idea, so now that's going to be me as well. So I got all this wonderful feedback, but one of the feedback emails I got was from a broker owner of a RE/MAX office who's a dear friend, and he said, not present was one of the words that he gave me, not present. And so I picked up the phone, and so this is really hard to talk about because, and it's hard to do because, you know, you're going to get good, bad, and ugly feedback. And I had to be a big enough girl to accept that. And so he came back saying not present. So I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, hey, Chip, you said not present. He goes, you know, I just feel like every single time I'm with you, if you're not on the phone, you're having a very high level conversation with me, and I don't feel that that you care enough. And boy, did that hit home. It really, really hit home. And that's, you know, those are hard conversations to have. And this is about maybe a year and a half ago. And I'm very aware of whether or not I'm present with people now, very aware of it because it hit me so hard. And sometimes it takes, you know, a heart attack for you to change your eating habits, right? It took that to change my habits, to make sure that when I was with people, I'm present. I literally sit in meetings with a piece of paper and a pen. I do not use my phone. I don't have it with me. I don't have it on. It's in my purse. I don't even see it. But boy, what a lesson that was learned. So the only thing I have to say about that is, you know, maybe this is happening to you and you just haven't had that email that tells you it's happening to you. So I guess, you know, my concern would be for anybody, and for me too, is what are people thinking about you that you don't know and they're not willing to say. So I don't ever want to be in that position again. I want that if I were to ever do this again, you know, type a email that says, hey, give me 3 words to describe me, that the description wasn't that I wasn't present.
Wow.
Yeah, so you know, it was hard. It was hard, but it made me better. So I'm okay with it. You know, I'm okay.
Only because Chip was brave, right? I don't think most people are brave enough to say that to somebody unless they really care about them. So that's
right.
That's super cool. I was thinking the word, you know, would people say I'm busy, right? I used to always dislike that when I was a loan officer, and someone would say, well, you're just so busy. And I just said, well, yeah, I am busy, right? But I'm busy because I'm efficient. I'm planned out, and that's really what my focus is. But that'd be a great try or great task for anyone on this mastermind who is brave as Jen would be to do something like that. I think it's pretty cool. I'm definitely reading some more comments here. We've got other people. I like that Andrew said he's the dog in the movie Up, one of my favorite movies, who always runs after the squirrel. I can totally relate. Definitely see people that are making comments around some commitments around multitasking, so that's great there too. Brett asked about the Win by Noon planner. If you look, Brett, in the mortgage coach community, I did a call with Dave on that on Tuesday, so you can actually watch it and learn all about it in there. That would probably be your best bet to get educated on that. And then I see, Dave, you pulled up that quote. Now you took it off of there, but I see that you pulled up that quote by Joe, your president. You mind sharing what that was about?
Yeah, no problem. So at Mortgage Coach, you know, our big mission is just, you know, every time a family gets into debt, they get a total cost analysis. So we're putting a lot more energy in getting our brand out directly to realtors, directly to families, building the Mortgage Coach brand. And this was an interview with a reporter from, I think it was Inc. magazine, was it?
That's what it says.
Is that what it said? I'm not seeing the whole article here, but yeah. And they interviewed Joe, and it was funny because I didn't, you know, I knew Joe was going to be in this magazine, but I didn't know what he was going to talk about. You know, the whole article was just around, you know, productivity habits. And I'm like, oh, what's Joe going to talk about? And you know, what does he think he's the best at? You know, because I was like, you're almost like he's a peer. Is he going to say something? And you know, I saw he talked about multitasking. I would tell you, Joe Couture is an amazing friend. He's an amazing executive at Mortgage Coach. And when it comes to not multitasking, I mean, this is his wheelhouse. You know, I mean, when he's with people, he's with people. You know, when he's on, you know, he's a guy that's very driven for quality over quantity. You know, and so anyways, I thought he did a really nice job here. And I almost felt like he was talking to me. You know, I made a little joke when I saw the press release. I'm like, Joe, were you giving me a hard time? Because sometimes when we're on Golden meetings, you know, I'll be doing like 3 meetings at the same time. But it was a good message from Joe. I have it up on our Facebook channel and our Facebook show. And if anybody's not looking at your screen, you can read it. And I also put it in the chat. And thanks for calling that out, Todd.
No, my pleasure. I think it's so important. And I met Joe, gosh, probably about maybe 8 years ago. Is that how long he's been with you, Dave, at Mortgage Coach?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, and I met him, and he looked like he was about 12 at the time. Maybe he was, but you know, what a great leader that you have over there. I was really taken back by his vision and commitment to what you guys are doing over there. So I think it's super cool.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check real quick.
That was pretty on topic for today.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. All right, so we got about 20 minutes left, and it would certainly be great if somebody, oh, look at that. Somebody just beat me to it. I say if someone would raise their hand so we can call on some of you. I always say it that, you know, this is a community. We love it when people ask questions. So I don't know if it's Louis or Luis. I'm going to unmute you in about 13 seconds and bring you in to ask your question. But any of you who have questions, we would love to be able to unmute you and have you ask it in the community and sort of engage with us. That would be great. So see if I can get my computer to do what it's supposed to be doing. There we go. All right. You have been unmuted. Is it Louis or Luis? Are you there, Luis? Hello, hello. I can hear myself in the background, but I can't hear you. You might be muted. I'm going to remute you for a moment, and then we'll try again in just a minute. All right. Anyone else out there in the community who would love to be empowered to discuss with us a question, an idea, a struggle? We would certainly love it.
Hey, Todd, I'm going to put a few people on the spot if you don't mind.
I would love it. I love it when you do that. You're so good at it, Dave.
Yeah. So hey, Don Gottlieb, what's up, man? I unmuted you. What's up, Don?
Hey, long time no talk, buddy. Just thought I'd jump on the call because all of us need to be more productive, and I thought this was a good one. Great to hear from you, bro.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice, brother. So hey, I figured you got a lot of energy like me. I'd love to know what some of your personal tactics are to stay on focus and reduce multitasking. Assuming you even have any.
No, I always a multitasker like you. It's hard to actually break that habit because you think you can just do all things at once. But I have worked with my own team, and actually we help train everybody the same thing, to work on one project at a time. Otherwise, you get distracted, and that's where mistakes happen. So all our processing and our team have to work at one file at a time and not 4 at a time. And like you guys, I have to learn to shut off my email and shut off my phone and work on projects and block that time out. Otherwise, it's amazing. The day just flies by and you actually don't end up getting much accomplished and not very productive, which makes you kind of upset with yourself at the end of the day. So that's why I jumped on this call. I can always use ways to be more productive.
Love it, love it. Any questions for the group? You know, this is the first time I've seen you on this call. You've been an active leader in the mortgage coach community for a long time. But anything that you'd love to have us talk about today?
No, I love hearing you know, what others are doing, and they have, you know, a lot of us all have the same challenges, you know, we find out. So actually, I love the statement about being present in the moment, because it's really hard to do that when you're meeting with someone or talking to them, and you tend to want to look at emails or still get stuff done. But being present in the moment, they really feel it and appreciate it. So it's something I've really worked on the last few years, and it's helped with getting my point across and really channeling with them and being part of their success by doing that. So these are great calls, Dave, and I'm going to try to get back into the community again. I was kind of really focused on the growth of our office and missed being part of the group and all that you've done for me over the years, Dave. It's been great stuff.
Well, you're a great leader in the mortgage coach community. Folks, this is a guy who's created hundreds, if not thousands, of total cost analysis. How are you doing, by the way? How is production levels right now?
Actually, we're killing it. We've really focused a lot on, raising our service levels because our industry, as you know, doesn't always have the best reputation for service levels, and being late's okay. And we've actually been working really, really hard to change all that. And we've basically tripled in growth in the last 2.5 years because of it, and grabbing more and more market share. So we're really, really blessed and very pleased. And a lot of the steps you've taken, every single person on our team uses Mortgage Coach to heart. I mean, every deal we work on gets a Mortgage Coach sent out. It's required because it differentiates us and raises the bar. So thank you.
Well, how many loans are you guys closing right now?
We're closing about over 20 million a month right now. So 50 to 60 loans a month right now on a regular basis. So it's been good.
Well, congratulations, Don. Let's jump and do a Skype interview soon, and it's great to see you on the productivity call. And if you do have questions for this community or you want to add some value, you're always invited, brother.
All right, I got to get you on our call anyways. We're starting a new series called Interview with the Giants Success Series, so I'd love to get you on that call too.
All right. Hey, thanks. I'm going to put you back on mute. If you get another, or
thanks, buddy.
If you do have a question, raise your hand. We'll bring you back in.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You still there, Dave?
Something happened.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't know if it was...
Hey, guys, sorry, I had it on mute. I apologize. So, hey, I want to call on one more person. Scott Cummings, you're unmuted. Are you available for a quick chat?
Dude, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Scott Cummings? So, folks, this is Scott Cummings in Albuquerque, New Mexico, a leader who's done thousands of total cost analysis, helped thousands of families. But I think the thing that distinguishes Scott so much in the marketplace is he's got, I don't know how many testimonial letters, but he's got stacks, books of testimonials from clients. So when Don mentioned about service levels, I mean, there's very few that deliver the kind of service Scott does. By the way, Scott, how many testimonial letters do you have from clients nowadays?
You know, it's interesting you ask. My assistant had been bugging her, so she just counted them, and it's north of 1,500 handwritten thank you letters.
It's amazing, guys. It's amazing. And by the way, these are not just little like form letters where people checked, oh, I give you a 10. This is like families that took the time to write a note, and they're mind-boggling. I mean, like you go through them. I mean, all of them are just heartfelt thank you because of the service level and the presence that you have. So I raised your hand, Scott, because you're someone that, you know, you're a good friend of mine. We've mastermind for years together. But when I think of someone that when you sit face-to-face vis-a-vis who's just present and curious, I don't know many people that are a peer to you in presence and curiosity. So what are some of your secrets to success to not multitasking and to deliver the kind of presence that you do?
You know, everyone's points today have been awesome. You know, the idea of the jam session, I've called them power hours, you know, that's so important. You know, one of the things I shot you a note is I have been wearing an Apple Watch for the last couple of years, which I was geeking out on and love. I just love technology, and I took it off a few months ago and went back to a traditional watch, and I just leave my iPhone in my pocket, and I'm so much more present without that Apple Watch because it was so convenient. I think, as Todd mentioned with his Fitbit, just be able to glance down and you think, oh, I can see the text, the message, my next appointment. Well, I'm just amazed how much less I'm on my phone or gadgets once I got rid of that Apple Watch. So not that I don't love it and wear it for working out, I just don't use it. I think the biggest thing about being present, and you know, this isn't going to be anything new or extraordinary, it's just this idea of, are we being a great listener? You know, are we present and, you know, having that high trust conversation, asking the right questions. Someone mentioned about a notebook. I'm a big fan of, you know, taking a bunch of notes. And then lastly, I think the other thing, and we talk about this all the time here, is how are we going deeper relationally? You know, I'm a proponent that the most valuable data in my CRM is the personal data, not the transactional data. You know, hobbies, interests, kids, dreams, hopes, goals. I had one of my jam sessions yesterday was database, and so I was just reaching out and connecting to people, and it was so cool to be able to have in my CRM things like that there's a reason to connect, and it's not me trying to sell someone something.
Well, I liked what you just said. I'm going to finish typing it out in a minute, but you said the most important questions are not the transactional questions, but what did you say, the personal or the emotional questions?
It's the relational questions. Think about, are we going deeper with these people? One of the things that's challenged me this week, and we think about all of these systems that we're using, are we being real and genuine and authentic, or are we just doing it because it's a system? And so one of the things that challenges me is, do I know people's kids' hobbies, dog, cat, hopes, are they football, soccer, and like your son, and, lacrosse, and, all of these little things. I believe that's the data that's the most important to capture and use and just go deeper with people relationally. So I think sometimes we do these systems because we think we have to, or we've heard, I got to do this, this, and this, and I think it becomes about the system and not about the relationship. And I don't think we're as effective sometimes. If we just slow down and go deeper relationally, I think it's going to be more successful for our business. Yeah.
Well, by the way, that is as we get towards the tail end of the call, that is some powerful wisdom that's incredibly on point. I would love it, Scott. Again, I don't want to burden you, but I would love for you to take a picture of some of those testimonials or the books itself and post it in this group. Because I want, obviously you're here as a participant in this mastermind, but you are a very special originator. Obviously, we're good personal friends. But, when I think of people in the mortgage coach community that just, you're present, and then how deep you go with folks. Because when you read these letters, it's like you clearly asked people what their goals were. You clearly had curiosity in them. And then the way you deliver a total cost analysis, it is just, you're creating life-changing experiences, with folks. So would love to have you raise your hand more, and hope you're on this call more, Scott.
Yeah, it's an honor and a privilege to be part of it, and thank you so much. It's a great privilege to be here.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, Todd, any questions for Scott before I put him back on mute, or any color you want to put around that conversation?
It's funny, I've heard Scott's name for years and years, and he reached out to me after we did the first call on the Win by Noon stuff. So I've, had a couple calls with him, and one with him and his wife. And, I just love getting to know you, Scott, and I loved the value that's added. I think it's the number one reason that loan officers have call reluctance is because they always feel like they're calling to sell something, or they're worried that the person on the other line is. So, for those of you who didn't internalize that, right? Scott said having that personal data, that personal information is so valuable, because then he's got a reason to connect, right? He's not just calling to sell something. So that was, that was really huge. And I love your thing about just listening. I think that we often forget that that's the biggest part about being present. I don't know who sent it to me or where I found it online, but I printed out recently a Stephen Covey quote that says, most people do not listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply. And when I read that, it kind of stabbed me in the heart, kind of like when Chip sent that to Jen. That sort of, I'm always thinking what's next, and that whole, that interruption of someone, because you're already answering their question in their mind and doing that. So, I love that. Keep it up, Scott. And just like Dave said, it's been great having you in the community.
Well, thanks again. Like I said, I'm honored and a privilege to be part of this.
Good. So we got 5 minutes. Let's do some round robin with our mentors and coaches. Dave Gallegos has been pretty quiet today. Dave Gallegos, a minute. Any quick takeaways from today? Anything you want to put a focus on as we wrap up today's call?
Man, there's been so much good content. Jen's story, that's appreciate the transparency, because that's difficult stuff to acknowledge and admit. I'm sitting here taking notes, committing to mastering personal productivity, being present in the moment, listening to understand. I keep going back to Mike White because of what Scott was talking about a minute ago about listening, about relationships. It does get, it does get that we've we're focused on units and everything else. And I think I mentioned this to you the other day, Dave, that we started doing a couple of years ago, talking about the families we help. But Mike White posted a great blog post, Devalued Relationships, a couple of weeks ago. You probably have it, Dave. And he just talked about using technology versus connecting. And there's been great takeaways today. Geez, this is good stuff. That's why the reason I'm on this is because I'm growing by being on it. So thanks for doing it, Dave.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, it's a group effort. It's a mastermind. Michelle, any last takeaways, any quick hits as we wrap up today's call?
I would love for you to post that quote that Todd just put on there, because that is such a really powerful quote about the listening. And I'm with Dave as well. I do this mastermind to fill my cup. And to fill my cup in so many different ways. And I always take away something from here. So thank you all for sharing.
Love it. Well, hey, everybody's on this call. Play it forward. We've had over 100 people on this call. From week to week, we're averaging 50-ish. Todd, Bookspan, and myself are dedicated to making this one of the most powerful hours where a mortgage professional could come and just get more productive. So play it forward. Invite other folks. Hope you join us. Jen, any quick thoughts as we wrap up today's call?
No, actually I don't. I just, again, the same thing. I think that the best in the business know that they can continue to learn. Those that don't attend these types of meetings and don't feel that they're valuable. So everybody who's on this meeting is looking to grow, and I appreciate everybody sharing so that I can grow. So thank you.
No, it's great to have you. Your story, I think, connected for all of us. And while I haven't asked friends and family the question the way you did, but I know how they would answer it, and I know that I can upgrade presence, and I know a lot of folks on this call do. So it was a great story. Thank you for sharing it. Sure. Also, want to remind everybody that Jen has released a new book. She's got a program that she's rolling out. There's a link to it on our Facebook page, as well as a link to her coaching consulting page. So, make sure you connect with her and follow that. We'll be talking about what Jen is doing in other calls. But Jen, thanks for all the leadership you bring to these calls.
Of course, really thank you. Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, no problem. So Todd, we're in the final 2 minutes. I'm going to push the poll question. Just want to see what you thought of today's call. Did you get a lot of value out of today's call? Let us know how was today's call, and answer that as you jump. And Todd, I'll give you the final 2 minutes to wrap up today's call.
I just big wholehearted thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks to the mentors for all sharing. Thanks to Scott and Don for letting us empower you. Certainly Jonathan for, even though you're not there anymore, for being part of the call. The last thing I was thinking about, sort of as we were going through this, and when Dave mentioned Mike White again, I don't know enough about Mike White. I made myself an action plan that in my next jam session that I'm going to actually go back into the Mortgage Coach YouTube library, and I'm going to watch that. I'm going to watch that video. And so that would be where kind of my final encouragement is. If you're new to this call, or if you've been on others before, go back into that YouTube library that Dave has put together of the Tuesday calls, of these calls, of the special calls, and make that a habit. I think there's a ton of value in there. He's got all the calls from even when this was a private group a year ago. There's some great calls in there that are insane productivity specific calls. And so I think that there's just so much knowledge amongst this community. And what I love is I've really seen since we opened it up to the rest of you, I love the extra interaction we've had on the Facebook page. So if you're not part of the private Facebook group that Dave's created, reach out to him or myself. We would love to add you in there. If you got questions outside of here, feel free to reach out. Always happy to. And I just say thanks to you, Dave. Right? You're at Notre Dame with while your son's at lacrosse camp, and I love the fact that you just pop into an office of one of your power users, and you're probably adding huge value to them. But more importantly, you're taking time away from your family to add value to all of us. So a big thanks for that, and look forward to hearing stories next week from all of you of what you've done to eliminate multitasking and to be a little more focused both at work and at home. Thanks, everyone.
Love it. And by the way, folks, I pulled up on the page the Insane Productivity Group. You can see that we label them by the week. This is week 42 in the can. And for the past 5 weeks, we've been, kind of putting what was the central theme. Last week was CRM. The week before was jam sessions. The week prior to that was Win by Noon. The week prior to that was video. And then the weeks prior to that, they were, no one topic. They were very general. But I would tell you that any of these calls are worth an hour of any mortgage professional's time. So make sure you are familiar with where they're at, and you're making them, as Todd said, part of your rhythm. Thanks, everybody. This call is a wrap. Have an awesome weekend.